Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over that away is DZ representing his Los Angeles Chargers. And down below, repping the Raiders, is Mr. Jack Kenna. Jack, thanks for joining the show, guys. And today we have a very special guest from On The Warpath, representing his Washington Commanders. You got to keep up with the name changes, though, because, wait 5 minutes and the name might change again. You just never know. Anyways, this is Corey of On The Warpath representing his Commanders. Corey?
Rich, man, I was about to come through this screen on you. It's starting already. No, bro. Hey, I'm glad to be here with you. Appreciate y'all letting me come on here and talk to you guys about the old Burgundy and Gold. And I don't think you have to worry about any name changes anytime soon, because we've got more important things to worry about, like actually playing football. So it's a new day in Washington.
In fairness, I've seen the petitions.
Yeah.
Like recent ones, like as in like this, like over the summer. Like I've seen the petitions. Like it's not like this isn't coming out of nowhere. Like I didn't just make.
I think at most what they do is bring the logo back, just not the name.
Children. It's just children, to be honest with you. Like it's people who want to be upset about something. I look, y'all see me. I'm wearing Redskins. That's the team I grew up on. But I know sometimes you got to be. If you told me I could get rid of Dan Snyder and all I had to do was change the name of the team, I would do it. I would do it 99 times out of 98 times, whatever you want to say. Yes, I overestimate. Like I don't. That guy was such a scar, a turd stain on this franchise. And you guys are older than I am, but so you all know what the Redskins were before this cat came along. And he single-handedly, he's like the Phoenix Suns owner now, right? Out there, and he's going through these championship-winning coaches and thinks he's smarter than the average bear. He's gone. I can live with. Is Commanders a great name? No, it's not. Anybody tells you that Commanders is a great name is lying to you. But I mean, we take cough syrup. People take cough syrup to feel better. Do we like the flavor of it? No, but it makes you feel better. And you know what cures a nasty taste in your mouth in football? Winning ball games, having a quarterback that is on the precipice of being elite, having a coach that's a human being, having a front office that isn't petty and just is about executing and finding the best talent to put out on the field on Sunday, man. And I'm excited. I am so excited, bro.
So I do have a question for you about your team there, since we kind of went right into it, which is just fine by me, because obviously we're dealing with a bunch of AFC West fans, a ton of Raiders fans in the chat. You get some Broncos, some Chargers guys coming in here as well, a few Chiefs guys from time to time as well. Give us a bit of a breakdown when you look at your current ownership group. Some obviously there's obvious changes between them and Schneider, so that's just a given at that point. What should we know about them? What are the stark differences? I mean, aside from the obvious, there's no need to go into the other stuff. Mm-hmm. But what are the obvious kind of managerial type changes that you're noticing or you have noticed?
It's not ran like North Korea. That's the one thing about it. But I mean that they've brought back some of our alums. Darryl Green, who's the best player in team history, 20 years as a member of the Redskins, they never retired his number.
What?
They never honored him up until this year. And quite frankly, Darryl Green didn't want to be bothered with them. And he played under Dan Snyder for 3 years, from 99 to 2002, and then he retired after his 20th year. They decided in the offseason last year that they were going to retire Darryl Green's number. What did they do? They got him to come in there, shoot some promos, right? They surprised the brother with him. They got him to basically do a Ron Burgundy, right? And he's like, I'm going to be the third player and team. Wait a minute. He said, you guys are crazy. And they brought his family in.
Oh, that's cool.
The GM, Dan Quinn, the head coach, and Doug Williams, who's still in the front office helping out and doing stuff like that. They came in there. They were all wearing 28 jerseys. They're bringing these guys back into the fold, and honoring the past. Like, these are guys who get it.
Well, that's classy.
It is.
That's classy. That's classy, right? Yeah.
It's something that's been missing for so long, like the disrespect of Sean Taylor, right? The only
that sculpture, man, it haunts me.
Right. I mean, and to me, I did. If his family didn't have a problem with it, I don't have a problem with it. But I understand people's frustration towards that, right? And the fans want it to be about them. I get that, whatever. But when we played the Chiefs in 2021, and that was the number retirement. For one thing, and I'll say I'm be quite 100. Sean Taylor has no business having his number retired before Darryl Green or an Art Monk. No, there's no way, or John Riggins. There's no way on God's green earth you can make that make sense to me. It's tragic what happened to him. I think he would probably be one of the greatest players to play in the position, but it's not right. And the only reason why they did it was, well, we need to capture some of these new fans to come in. I mean, they had the family taking pictures in front of the porta potties. Like, come on now, man. That's what the old regime would do. And they come in here, they say, we're going to do something right to honor Sean Taylor. They're working on that at the moment. I think they're working with his family to do something right to honor him. But that's just one thing that they do. Josh Harris is from the area. Mitch Rails, who's one of the limited partners. Of course, they got Magic Johnson in there. And then Mark Ian, another guy who went to school with.
That's a massive ownership group, I think.
Yeah, it's
right?
the biggest. Yeah, they had to. They literally had to go through some extra parameters because there's like 20-some limited partners there. Yeah. But Josh Harris, he doesn't go by owner. He goes by the managing partner of it. And, I mean, he likes to sit up there and drink, but he lets his people go and do their thing, man. And that's all you can wish for in the ownership. Now, we don't have Walmart money like one of the teams on this panel, but I mean, it is what it is. It's gonna work for me. But they get it. It seems like they get it, and they've got the right people in there that get it. I hope you don't have any 76ers fans on this on here anywhere, because y'all's team is going down because Josh Harris doesn't give a dime about y'all anymore. He's all about the burgundy and gold, bro.
NFL money. It's all about the NFL money.
Yeah.
Right?
There's another team. It's the Commanders, 76ers, and New Jersey
Devils.
Devils.
Yep. So, go Capitals. But
yeah, man, I'm a Caps fan as well.
Nice. We're going to take the Stanley Cup from Canada again this year. So,
I hope they can get back, man.
Well, see, the funny thing about the NHL
since you brought up hockey, there we
go.
So I do think it's important to note that despite the fact that American teams will win the Stanley Cup, and it does happen, and it's not that infrequent anymore, the majority of your teams, especially the top players, are still almost all Canadians for the most part.
Canadians, Swedes, Finland.
But they still got to come across. They got to go across the border to actually win something, though. Rich, come on, man. I mean, I was.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that because no one wants to play for a Canadian hockey team. The taxes here suck. Like we're like this dude here is from California, and Canadian teams that are players that live up here in Canada wish they had California taxes.
Well, Jack is still in California, NorCal, so he's probably feeling the squeeze.
Oh, sorry, that dude. But
Maryland's
anyways,
like the fifth highest tax.
Yeah, I mean, Canada's taxes are absolutely horrible. Like it is awful. So interesting news. Actually, just not long before our show.
Yep.
And why not break it here? You're with us.
Yeah.
A huge major news on a new stadium.
Yeah. The framework is not done yet. It's not done. They Mark Seagraves from NBC Washington said it's not done yet, but they're like in the red zone with it. And I think the team is going to cover like $2.5 billion of a $3 billion deal to get that RFK site. So like that's redoing everything and have it done by 2030. So and that's exciting. That's so exciting. We don't have to go to Maryland anymore because as you can see, I'm kind of a portly fellow. If I rode the Metro, and DZ, you know about the Metro.
I ride the Metro to see go to Nats games and sometimes Caps games. Yeah.
So the Metro station to FedEx Field, or was it Northwest Stadium now? You have to walk a mile to the stadium to get off. So like, we don't want to do that anymore. We just want to get off and then walk to our stadium and see it in sight. It's not in sight. You got to walk through a neighborhood and everything. But this is awesome. Washington DC's team is coming back to the nation's capital. That's awesome. I mean, I'm a Northern Virginia kid, so I don't really care where it was at. But it's good for it to come back to that where we won so many championships back in the 80s and then the early 90s won that last one. So people are excited.
That's fantastic because you know what? One thing I can't stand is like when I look at the New York teams and they play in New Jersey, or I look at the 49ers and they say San Francisco and they're in Santa Clara. So being able to
but Washington, to be fair, has been claimed by the DMV probably since their existence, I think. Because I think back then there was no team in Maryland, right? Like the
Colts were, but they left in the 80s.
Yeah, so maybe not. But it gives like Virginia an NFL team to root for, especially Northern Virginia being so heavily populated.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I what they can do for it, what it's going to bring to that area. You got to think about the entertainment dollars there. That means if they get a dome stadium, they probably can host the Final Four there.
Concerts and everything.
Yeah, concerts, all kinds of things. A Super Bowl. So it could put DC on the map even more. So I'm looking forward to it. And then you're going to have all four of the major teams in the city finally. Because they did have something with the Wizards and the Capitals where it fell through that they were going to try to move to Northern Virginia, and it fell through like a week later. They had this press conference. They were all excited last year, but no, I mean this is. But everybody,
I do love the Caps in Chinatown, though, man.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I like Capital One Arena. I've been to more Wizards games than I've been to Capitals games, but so I'm a sucker for punishment and cheap.
It's a fun vibe down there.
It is, and you can go to Chick-fil-A right across the street if you get home.
Yep.
Score 100 points, you get a free sandwich afterwards.
Nice.
So, maybe a quick breakdown, just so we can really kick the show off with, all of us being informed and all that sort of thing. Maybe let's start off with. Obviously, we know that the Commanders had one heck of a season last year. Certainly overshot what I think is a fair comment to make, what most people thought you were going to do last season. I think that's a fair statement to make. You've obviously found your quarterback, and clearly, I mean, this is, you put that to rest after, a few games in. So that's a great thing. So maybe talk about your team last season, what surprised you and what maybe disappointed you, just to give us a well-rounded take on the Commanders as a team. and then maybe delve right into your roster. And then from there, we'll just go into how you guys stack up against our AFC West teams once you've done that.
That boy good. That boy is good. That's all I can say. That boy is good. Jaden Daniels. I had no idea how this guy. I was like, maybe he played. We'd be in a lot of games, be competitive, but we'd lose. But we learn how to win towards the end of the season. I didn't think he was going to come out here and throw the doors down and like after a little kinky first 1 and 2 start that he was just going to show off on a Monday night in Cincinnati. And then the legend of Jaden Daniels was unfolding in front of us. And, I thought this was a 7-10 team at best. And I was going to be fine with that because I said this at the beginning of the season. I said if we're in every game, we're improving, because if you watch us in 2023, we were getting the dog snot kicked out of us every single week. I think down the stretch, we had 2 competitive games against the Jets and the Rams, but I mean, Dallas beat us like 45-10, 38-10. We played some close games against Philadelphia, the Giants. We invented Tommy Cutlets because he literally came in there and dragged everything. He called the mob. He called everybody in, and they just clipped our kneecaps at FedEx Field. So, I was just like, yeah, we got a lot of holes on this roster. And as you all know, we've had some questionable first-round draft picks. Mr. Feed the Children, Emmanuel Forbes, who's out there in LA. Jamin Davis, who loved to do Fast and the Furious 52 out there in Loudoun County. He was going like 45 in a 25 zone, and then Chase Young. You just think about and Jahan Dotson, right? They were all first round draft picks in the past 4 years, and they're no longer on the roster. So we're like, how we gonna make up for this? So I'm like, I'm hoping that 7-10 is the record, but we come in there and we're like, okay, we can, we'll play with Cincinnati, right? And Cincinnati was trying to get there. We're like, we can play with them. We can't stop them, but we can play with them. And then Cleveland, they've got a good defense. Maybe we can play with them. Beat the brakes off of them. Arizona, they've got a good quarterback. Kyler Murray, he's not playing Call of Duty right now. The new one didn't come out. We beat the brakes off of them. And I'm like, okay. I'm starting to smell myself a little bit here.
Yeah, but Kyler Murray still needed at least 2 phone books to see over his offensive line.
But that's okay though. Drew Brees needed 4, but that's okay.
This is true.
That's fine. Short. George Jefferson was a great laundromat leader and businessman. So it doesn't matter. Short sometimes works. Just depends on who you're asking. And
Corey, it's like I just looked at Jaden Daniels. It's like the Raiders wanted to make a play for him. You had a head coach in Antonio Pierce who had him in Arizona, who knows the kid. Mm-hmm. The word was that was willing to give up 3 first rounders for him. But then we had a GM in Tom Telesco who made 1 trade in 11 years. So the head coach, the GM were not on the same page. And I think a lot of the Raider Nation would have been happy to give up those 3 first-round picks for Jaden Daniels, especially the way it turned out. Looking back on it,
y'all seen the Hard Knocks in the middle of the season with the and during the offseason with the Giants, right? And Joe Shane's son said, "You only have this job once. Draft Jaden Daniels." That's so like I said, I'm like, God, is this kid like really? And as a Washington fan, I'm just like, is this really happening to us? Like, because nothing good ever happens to us.
Did you say Joe Shen's son said that?
Yes, he said it to him. He said,
you just reminded me of something because Jack's new GM, Spycheck, his son said, draft Genty. So I'm like,
Kids know, man. Unless you're Woody Johnson's kids, they know, man. They know what they're doing. But this roster, you look at it, I think a lot of credit you got to give it to Dan Quinn. It starts with Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. because Dan Quinn, he had a good defense in there in Dallas. He was a good coach in Atlanta. You know, the 28-3 kind of follows him. There's still a stigma there with it. But I wasn't a fan of the Dan Quinn hire. I joked and said he looked like they were sending him back on coach to go back to Dallas. And I said, is he interviewing to be the team pilot or something? What's going on here? But a couple weeks later, they hire him. We thought that we were going to get boy wonder Ben Johnson, and that didn't happen. Thank God we didn't get him. And you know, we sit there, and then they draft Adam Peters. He goes in there. They bring in Cliff Kingsbury, who was going to go to the Raiders. He was going to go to the Raiders.
Yep.
That was all. The ink was getting ready to get applied to the paper, and then somehow pulled him in the 11th hour, and was like, "Hey, I'll come to Washington."
Well, it's also because of, again, your quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the quarterbacks that were coming out, and you know what? Again, we're not making a move, so he's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to be working with Minshew and Aiden O'Connell and all these other guys." I'm sorry, that's the newer quarterbacks, but it was like Garoppolo.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Yeah, it's bad, man.
So guys, I just want to quickly touch on Adam Peters, though.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I really want to touch on Adam Peters. First off, that was the guy, or one of the guys, that I've spoken about on this show. DZ's been watching, following us long enough where I've certainly brought his name up at least once. Champ Kelly is another one that I put in that same category. They are all former Broncos head office player personnel guys, and every single one of them was ignored by John Elway. Like every single one.
So they're like, "Peace, we're out."
And so, like, they couldn't get out of the Denver Broncos front office fast enough because they wanted like this is the thing that just killed you, right? These guys were all around here with the Denver Broncos when we were assembling the talent pool where we got to 2 Super Bowls. Like, they were responsible for vision and scouting and drafting and all that kind of stuff, where they found guys like, Julius Thomas and, those types of, like that. Like, those were the guys like Champ Kelly, Adam Peters, and there's a couple other dudes that are in that kind of same class. So he was with the Denver Broncos from 2009 to 2013. So literally, like, in the middle of the Denver Broncos, like, height success with like Peyton Manning and the drafting and all that kind of stuff, like Zane Beadles and Noshawn Moreno and all of those guys that kind of became Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas, all those types of dudes that like are household names now, and even other teams are like, I know all those guys, and they were really good players. Derek Wolfe, for example, would have been right within that kind of block there as well. Same with Malik Jackson. There's a name blast from the past that you guys might remember from the Super Bowl 50 roster. Ended up going to New York because, again, John Elway put us in such cap hell that we couldn't keep him. But again, looking at Peters, you start with a skilled, gifted front office player personnel guy that is not only respected in the league, but knows exactly what he's doing. And he is then able to put you in a position where you nail your head coach hire, you start hitting on draft picks where you've struggled in the past. And, wouldn't like, competency actually matters, right? Like, deep pockets can actually be overcome if those shallower pocket owners are willing to identify and value talent to come in to do what they can't, which is basically, pick appropriate talent and coach at the NFL level.
Richie,
and
don't forget.
You guys have nailed that. Like this is like a home run. Like, literally, like, for up to bat, like, grand slam.
Cliff
like,
was
amazing.
Also a Bronco for a very short period of time.
Cliff
Kingsbury.
Oh, Cliff. Yeah.
To me, that's like, I know you're talking about Adam Peters, but to me, Cliff Kingsbury is, I think he was a cherry on top to make this Commander's engine go.
Yeah, and
that to me. I got a question for you, Corey. How long was his contract for Kingsbury? Because that was also another stopping factor for the Raiders, because he wanted a contract longer than what the head coach was going to have.
I do not know what his contract. I'd be lying if I told you if I knew what his contract.
Not
was.
money, just how many years.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how long his contract was. It might have been 3. Might have been 3.
4-year deal. 4 years.
4 year deal. 4 years.
4 years.
4.
Yep.
That's good. That's a good deal.
Yeah. And then you talk about AP. He was in New England. He was a scout for them for 5 years. For 5 years, he was under Bill Belichick and company. And this was the early iteration of that dynasty. 2003, 2004. He was scouting for that perfect team in 2007. Almost perfect, but the Giants got in the way. So, I mean, the guy knows. He knows this stuff, and he's worked around some of the best in the business. So, I mean, he was a home run hit, and it's another scoring to the New York Giants too, right? Because the year before, Joe Shane, when Joe Shane was hired, they wanted to interview Adam Peters, and Adam Peters was like, "Nah, fam, I'm good," and he passed up on him. He could have been the general manager of the Giants at that point. So we lucked out double time getting him, and then getting Jaden Daniels being in that spot. And honestly, we could have beat the Jets, and we probably would have been without Jaden Daniels. So there's a lot of stuff that just the bad that actually went our way to get to that point. But the one thing, like I said, these guys, and they're very similar. They're very down to earth dudes. They're chill, and they're about winning. And that's something we haven't had. They really don't want to be in the camera. They just want to ball and win and get to the next level. And that's the culture, the brotherhood that Dan Quinn and them created. And that's what winning 12 games does for you. That I think the unity in that building that they built, and don't forget, a lot of these guys were hired assassins. They were on 1-year deals coming in here. I think we had the most 1-year contracts in the NFL last season, and they
more
came
than
in here.
my team, huh?
Yeah, like,
yeah.
and we can't. And those guys came in here. Think about that, guys. If you're trying to build a culture, they sold the culture so quick that it won 12 games. And granted, I know we had a 4th place schedule, but to win 12 games is hard at any level, no matter what your schedule is.
Yeah.
And they went out there and did it.
Period.
I mean, that's the one thing. I don't think people realize, like, how much the odds, even though we had this great quarterback, that can y'all name me another one of my receivers outside of Terry McLaurin?
Well, you traded him away, but you got addition by subtraction, I think, with Diane Brown leaving.
Yeah, no, down.
But
see,
I know, I get your sentiment.
you know, but you know what I'm talking about. Nobody knew who De'Ami Brown was until December of last year. The dude was sitting on the bench, sitting there picking his toes.
He got paid. He got paid. Good for him.
Yeah, he's robbing Jacksonville.
Yeah,
down there. Like, but I'm saying we had Olamide Zaccheaus, who was a journeyman in the league. Not very Olamide doesn't scare anybody. Noah Brown was our second best receiver, and he was signed in the regular season. His first game was week 2 against the Giants.
I like Noah Brown. Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah.
But like that shit. But I think people need to realize, like, we were the island of misfit toys, and we still were able to win 12 games. That goes to a credit of finding the right dude to get the moment. Yes.
5th in points in the whole league last season with the rookie QB.
It's insane.
That's impressive, man.
Yeah.
Actually,
and like you said before the show started.
So the other thing you guys are missing is in the 2023-2024 season, you were a 4-win team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 2024-2025 season,
who do we beat in that season, Rich?
14-5.
Who do we beat?
You were 12-5.
Yeah. Who do we beat? Who do we beat in 2023? Who do we beat in 2023? I'm trying to remember. Week 2, who do we beat in 2023?
Oh, I hope it was the Broncos. Dude,
we're hoping so too.
Dude, how many times have I been on your show? Like, I'm not an apologist, my man.
I know.
I'm not an apologist.
I know. I gotta get you. You know that after the name comment, I had to get you.
I am the most critical Broncos fan that you will ever meet.
You are.
My team. Like, and it's not even close.
He's very pessimistic. Let's just say.
Absolutely.
The glass is half empty all the time in Denver.
But here's the thing, is that the entire time that I have been pessimistic, I have largely been right. And the time where I was optimistic, I was also largely right, because I am looking for specific things.
Now he's doing one of these things, patting himself on the back kind of thing.
This is more one of those things. But the whole point is that I'm looking for specific things on a team that I know are going to be successful, because I've seen it work before. And you cannot lie to yourself just because you love the color of your team. Right. You have to be honest. You actually have to be objective, right? And so, as an example, objectively, as much as it pains me to say it aloud on the show, on the internet, and I cannot delete it once I say it, is the Raiders are going to be a better team this year, and that will be undeniable. Why? They have a competent head coach that has done it before and has proven that he can build cultures at the NFL level. That's your baseline right there. You don't need to go anywhere past that. That's your baseline. And
you can't do much worse than 4 wins. So
no, it's very difficult to do worse than that. I agree, because you're going to.
You've got some really good pieces to build around too. That's another.
Like, it's not like
Mark Davis going to let him do his job, though. That's the thing.
Well, Mark Davis, I think, has learned quite a bit by bringing in Tom Brady to kind of be kind of the bug in his ear. And I think that's going to be helpful to him after seeing a winning culture at New England. And I think it'll be let the team do their thing, but set a guardrail.
That's a conspiracy with the Chargers. What you kind of said about Mark Davis is like, is the owner going to let the GM draft the guy he wants? That was the whole stipulation with Telesco in LA, is people were like, hang on, was it Telesco's fault? Which it was, because he was horrendous from rounds 2 through 5 throughout his tenure. But that's why he doesn't have a job today. But people always wonder, was it ownership kind of telling him, hey, we want you to go and get this guy. We want you to get these guys in these rounds, or this guy in the first round. And that's kind of the conspiracy to tinfoil hat wearing fans, and we don't know. But last year with the new regime, I think when they hired Harbaugh, I think Harbaugh said, "Hey man, you guys are giving me the keys, and it's just me and this guy," because he calls Ortiz his Batman, and he's the Robin to Ortiz, and he's like, pretty much, you guys stay out of this. Let us do our job. And I think we finally saw that, as you guys did in DC or Virginia or Maryland, wherever the hell that team is at these days. But I see similarities on our team's trajectory. Is these new regimes take over, and it's night and day from what it was the previous year,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you could be right on that, DZ, because when Telesco came over, he had a good draft for the Raiders.
He did.
The majority of the picks stayed on the team, even though he didn't survive very long.
No, you're Jack. That's the one. We were all Charger fans are like, of effing course, he has a badass draft in Vegas. We're like, are you give me a break? But yeah.
Well, a lot of that has to do with your scouts. A lot of it has to. So, for example, Adam Peters. It sounds like your ownership group, Corey, from everything I've seen, and frankly, the facts or the results rather, kind of speak for themselves in terms of just how quickly you were able to shift things. When you have an owner that brings in someone and then says, I trust you to do the thing, right? Whatever that is. So you're the GM, you need to do the thing. You're the head coach, or GM, you help me select the head coach, and then let's let him do that thing with your guidance and direction. And you kind of go down the line and say, let the people that I bring in do their jobs. That's why I brought them in here. If the owner thought that he could actually coach a football team or pick players in draft day, then save yourself the money and do it yourself if you think you're that darn good. Or you could be like Jerry Jones, do it anyway,
and
then blame everyone else for it, right? But well, no one wants to have the stigma that surrounds the Dallas Cowboys, because everyone knows that Jerry's the one that's literally pulling all the strings and bossing everyone around, and the proof is in their results, which has been not spectacular over these past years because he is constantly meddling.
Oh,
yeah,
he's ruining the Cowboys. He can't do deals at all. He waits until the last minute, costs him so much more money. He can't pay all his players. Yeah, he was like Al Davis when Al Davis was purely senile. That's what Jerry Jones is. And Corey, since we got here, talking about GMs, what have you guys what have you picked up? What have you lost? And I do have, one player I want to ask you about when you actually say his name. But what have you guys, picked up? What have you guys lost so far this offseason?
So what we lost, I know you're leading to Jeremy Chin. We've lost two of our receivers, and De'Ami Brown and Lamde Zaccheaus. The biggest thing was that Jonathan Allen, who'd been here since 2017, went to the Minnesota Vikings. They did him a solid. He went for a contract. They weren't going to give him the money. And they said, hey, we're going to cut you before free agency hits here, so you can go find somebody. He signs with Minnesota. We lose the I swear that I thought when they said that Benjamin St. Juste was going to LA, I thought he was going to Lower Alberta, because I thought we were going to I literally thought he should have been deported because he was an enemy of the state every time he went. Like there I could count on my hand and on my wrist every time. It's like, well, I had a running tally. I said, oh, yep, he did it. Okay, check. Bingo card. That was Commander's bingo card. Benjamin St. Juste was going to get cooked, or he was going to draw a penalty every single time. And I'm pretty sure it happened. We played the Bears, right? And we were still clinging to the lead. He literally didn't have to do anything to Keenan Allen. Basically just grabs him and was like,
I remember that play.
Yeah, he didn't have to do anything.
I remember that.
He didn't have to do anything. All he had to do was play the ball. But
it's going to be hilarious if the Chargers re-sign Keenan Allen in the summer and he's playing against St. Juste during spring training. It's going to be hilarious.
I feel horrible for you, because that man is on your roster. Y'all should riot. You should have.
We had Jerry Tillery on our roster.
You need to fire a general manager for just bringing him in there. Like that is a.
Well, you know why they brought him. You know why they brought him. He's got ties to Michigan with Harbaugh and our defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So
one good year in Michigan, then he went to Minnesota the rest of the way.
Yeah. So I think he's obviously, it's just competition. He's not going to start. He's not starting over Tarheeb or Cam Hart. He's not starting over those two.
I see this in your eyes. That is you trying to tell yourself that this is not going to happen.
It's not.
I do. Like I can see it. I can feel it. I can feel it in your spirit. That
they also that guy Dante. I think Dante Jackson from Pittsburgh, who's I don't know. But the thing is, I like the way they run the defense is super high zone, which favors St. Juste. But I know I'm not expecting anything out of this kid.
Don't.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen is the defense.
Don't put any evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Oh, it's coming. Is the scheme is going to favor his skill set, and he's going to be good enough in preseason to be basically give you false hope.
Yeah.
Because he's going against lesser thans in preseason. Harbaugh's going to keep him, and then he is going to be your version of Levi Wallace from my Denver Broncos, who got absolutely slaughtered by the Browns. And then you're going to come on the show and you're going to be crying, and we're going to have to console you.
Isn't St. Juste still in his rookie contract? Didn't they?
No, it ran out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was bad. But and to kind of, I see the comment, Cords. I like Jeremy Chin. If y'all remember when he was drafted in 2020, they were outside of Chase Young. He was the only one kind of drawing considerations for defensive rookie of the year. He had a unicorn season. He played in all 17 games. He hadn't done that in his career up to this point.
I have PTSD from 2020, so I don't
Yeah.
really.
I hear you. And I think you guys are going to get a good. I think you're going to get a good player. He's going to be great in run support. That's what he was. He pretty much was like another linebacker. Yeah. That's exactly what he was. He was a box.
Like Derwin James kind of style.
Yeah, or like a Landon Collins type when he with the Giants. He's going to play physical. He's going, he'll be okay. He'll be all right in coverage. But I think you guys got a good one. I really do. I like Jeremy Chin. I wish we could have re-signed him and brought him back just because we need that physicality on that defense.
He had 86 tackles last year. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what's crazy is, the Raiders had Trayvon Moehrig, and they lost him to the Panthers because he got money. He got the bag. He got 3 years, 45. And when we got Chin for 2 years, $16 million, I was looking at the stats. I mean, his stats are better. And you know what? Almost the whole Raiders defensive line was out last year. So Moehrig just had more opportunities to put up those stats. And so it's like I was so stoked. He's actually my favorite free agent that we picked up this offseason.
That's a good signing.
Yeah, if he's healthy, man, I mean, he's going to do well. And I think that's part of that contract too, is because of his past durability issue. So, I mean, if you get, I'm going to be rooting for him. I mean, I want to see him succeed. Like it's a business.
He fits perfectly with what Pete Carroll wants to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's 6'3", and they re-signed Polamalu, who's 6'4" right now as their safety. So they're going back to what Pete Carroll likes. He likes those tall, big, safeties, cornerbacks, linebackers. He likes the big boys. So he fits exactly what the Raiders need.
I wish they had picked up Bobby. No, I'm kidding. But I love Bobby Wagner, but he doesn't need to be playing 90-some% of the snaps. I think from
this age,
from week 8 to the championship game, he didn't miss a defensive snap.
So, Corey, how excited, or if you are, about Deebo Samuel with Daniels?
This weighs on my spirit a lot. I'm
I remember you have Cliff. So
I get we have Cliff, but I mean, I know Deebo kind of wore out the carpet in San Francisco a little bit towards the end, and it's kind of like he's kind of like this year's Austin Eckler, right? Because all we were seeing was highlights of Austin Eckler last year when Phillip Rivers had 12 kids instead of 13. So back, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, can Deebo do this? Can Cliff get him right? Can they ring him in? Can the culture bear hug him a little bit to get him on the straight and narrow? They gave him his money, right? And that was more of a cap. That was a cap help for us. But if he can capture half the numbers he did in 2021, I'm going to be like, okay, this is good. I love it. My favorite move is Laramie Tunstall to protect you're protecting the future. You said, and if he can cut down on the penalties, Lord have mercy.
That's smart.
Yeah. But to your question,
I mean, Deebo is such a hot name.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying. I was like, okay, I was trying to see how is this going to work? How's this going to fit? And I remember about Cliff Kingsbury being there, Jade. And I'm like, a change of scenery might do him well, because there was a lot going on in San Francisco. There was a lot of guys going for the ball, and we'll see. We'll see what goes on. He might be really good for the young QB.
Yeah,
it's really going to be able to tell when he first starts off. I heard when he, when you guys first picked him up, he was over 20 some odd pounds overweight.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, is he going to turn that ship around? And, when he goes into camp, is he going to be carrying all that extra weight, or is he going to be, I need to get myself prepped? I think that'll be a telling,
well, it's like,
tale right there.
I guess that's up to the Commanders. Are they going to use him as that hybrid weapon, or they're just going to be like, you're a wide receiver, you're a slot guy. So if he's a hybrid weapon, I think they're going to probably want him to carry some extra weight, I guess.
We're going to have to use him as a hybrid depending on what you do in the draft because, to be quite honest with you, our running back room didn't change this year. So we're still bringing back Brian Robinson, who is a power back. And I mean, a buddy of mine, and we always talk about this, is we run that air raid, and that's primarily out of the gun. You know, he's got to get his running start, right?
Yeah.
He's a downhill runner. He's not running. He's not designed to run uphill all the time out of the gun. And he had a lot of injuries last year too. But you need to design some stuff under center or like maybe running out of the pistol to kind of get him going in that respect. You bring back Austin Eckler. Hopefully he's healthy. But there's that caveat, right? How many concussions can he endure? Because he's had a history of it. We bring back Jeremy McNichols. He's a good blocker, but he doesn't wow you. Chris Rodriguez, he had a good game against the Titans last year. Another guy who is a grinder, Ron Rivera draft pick, but doesn't wow you. So I think Debo is going to have an opportunity there in that running back room. Also outside that wide receiver. I think they're going to put him more in the slot more than anything, and they'll get somebody on the outside to help out with Terry. Hopefully Noah Brown's healthy and he can compete on that, because Noah Brown pretty much was like a glorified tight end last year with Zach Ertz for the most part. But yeah, we'll see what Debo can. We'll see what Debo can do. I'm hopeful. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, that's a good term. Cautiously optimistic.
I'm like Rich in this, because when I smell crap, I'm like, you got to do a lot. You got to do a lot to get that stench out. It's like getting skunk stench out of a building. It's going to linger for a long time, even when you didn't air it out the door. So, yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see. I can't, I don't want Debo Samuel to be old chubby coming up in there.
Yeah.
He don't need to look like me running the ball. So,
So that's an interesting kind of grouping there in terms of some players you brought back, some players you lost. Talked about some that kind of, we'll call it pool cued to the AFC West, which is obviously relevant given present company. So maybe let's move along and we'll talk about how you stack up against the AFC West, looking at least where we are right now. Someone just shut off the lights in the room, so you can give me a sec. I got to go turn them back on. So like you can actually see my face, which would be great.
Actually, leave it off.
Well, that might be beneficial to the rest of the audience. I agree, but it is what it is. Jack, mind the earthquakes there.
5.2 San Diego. I'm glad I wasn't close to my house.
But so we're going to go ahead and start with the Commanders versus Raiders. And I think that's going to be a really interesting one, given I say the Raiders are in the early stages of where the Commanders were last year, where they have a good block of talent intermixed throughout their roster. They finally got a new head coach that is kind of the adult in the room. And it'll be really interesting, I think, to kind of have you guys kind of go juxtapose and see where you guys think you're going to stack up against each other. Waiting to see kind of where you guys think.
Well, I think, right off the top, I think the Raiders are going to be able to put some pressure on. The question is, are they going to be able to catch Daniels? That defensive front can hold its own against any team in the NFL. So, Corey, of course, we got Max Crosby, Christian Wilkinson. We just re-signed Mike Butler to a 3-year deal. He was kind of a rotational piece last year. He was like a third down defensive tackle. He got 5 sacks. And then we got Malcolm Kuntz back, who had 8 sacks the year before, but he was injured in preseason.
Yeah.
So I see that matchup up against your offense. Your offensive line is going to be a key piece for us.
Yeah, I mean, and the one thing about the offensive line is, of course, we'll be without, depending on when we play the Raiders, and it always seems like we play y'all in December, unless you're coming out here sometimes.
We're coming out your way.
Yeah. So I think the last time y'all came out here was a Sunday night in week 3 of 17. So I don't know why I know that well, but it's crazy. I like Sam Cosmi. Hopefully he'll be back by the time we play y'all. That'll be a neutralizing effect. If Tyler Biotis is healthy, the center, I give us a good shot in the trenches. They're going to move Brandon Coleman either to right tackle, or they may wind up moving him inside. He was the tackle we took in day 2 with from Kansas State. Yeah, he was at Kansas State. I'm pretty sure. I think. Check me on that. Somebody check me on that. But he played a lot of left tackle last year. We bring in Tunstall. So I think we have enough that it's going to be a good battle in the trenches when your defense is on the field, our offense is on the field. And Jaden is that X factor on that. And like you said, Jack, it depends on, can they catch him? Can they? I would even argue the fact that can they contain him? And with Max,
it's almost
Crosby,
like a Mahomes-esque, like you don't want him to leave the pocket.
Mm-hmm. And Max Crosby, we struggled with Micah Parsons. I put those guys on the same level. Mm-hmm. So if Max is watching any tape, I'd say watch all the tape of Micah Parsons against Washington. And we did have Andrew Wiley there on that right side last year. Hopefully that'll change. I think Wiley's going to kick in the guard this year while Cosme's out. So, we'll see in that respect how that goes. But that's going to be a key matchup. And then defensively for us, I don't know how we cover Brock Bowers. We struggle against good tight ends. So these are things that would keep me up at night, because I think you could put Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder there and just say throw the ball up, and Brock Bowers is going to catch the ball, and he could kind of make us look silly. So that, especially by an aging Bobby Wagner, and Frankie Louvu's not a coverage guy. He's more of a pass rushing type specialist, but he does it sometimes. So, I mean, in that respect, it's going to be a good matchup.
It'll be tough on that, Corey. But everyone has a hard time covering Bowers. There was only one guy in the entire league last year that had any success. Was this guy, Surtain? But he's like the number 1 defensive back in the entire league, and Bowers still had 43 yards. Mm-hmm. Yep. But I will say this: what'll be really interesting, once you get past that core, the defensive line for the Raiders, based on what they have right now, Jaden Daniels can tear it up. I mean, Raiders lost both their starting safeties, but we got Chin as replacing, and we re-signed Palomalu, who took over last year as a starter for one of our other injured safeties. We lost both our starting linebackers, and we just kicked Jack Jones to the curb recently. So they're thin on that backside. So if you can get that, hold down the fort just long enough, but then I think Jaden Daniels can have a rocking day for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Coleman went to TCU, by the way. TCU. My bad. I said Kansas State. I was thinking purple. So
I got your depth chart here in terms of like a rough depth chart here in front of me, which is helping me piece together at least who I think is going to be, challenging versus not, and all that sort of stuff. And I find it really interesting in terms of how you guys are retooling your roster. It's a really, really interesting, look from the outside. Mm-hmm. Dusting in some aging veterans like, Bobby Wagner as an example, but, trying to backfill with talent and stuff like that. I think it's going to be a really interesting approach. And it's not like the guys you're bringing in that are aging are over the hill. They're still playing at a pretty high level in terms of, even though they are aging, it's not like they're, past their prime so much that it's, a wasted roster spot. Like they are very, very skilled still. So, there's a reason why you guys did as well as you did last year.
Oh yeah. I mean, I look at some of these guys that you talk about aging, and they both had unicorn seasons. And Zach Ertz is the ultimate unicorn in the room. Zach did everything that you needed Zach to do for this team to be successful. He played in every game. He was a reliable target. The yak's not there anymore, but he was a reliable target for a rookie quarterback.
Great
he
safety
was
blanket.
he was a great safety blanket for him. I mean, you guys think about it. Him and Terry McLaurin were 1 and 2 on that drive that we won against Chicago. They were able to he found Ertz over the middle and then found that little out route to McLaurin, which set up the opportunity for that Hail Mary. So Ertz is, but it also asks the question though, is this because Father Time is undefeated? Is this the best we're going to see out of these guys? Because if that's the best we're going to see, all we're going to see is the worst coming up probably in next year. So we got to figure out who can step up for these guys. Now, Bobby Wagner, I'm not worried about as much as Zach Ertz because of the history there, but he's slowing down. So you got to figure out who's going to be the heir apparent to these guys, and that's what you should have been doing last season. Hopefully, Ben Sinnott is the guy. Ben Sinnott's from Kansas State. That's where I was getting mixed up at. Hopefully he's the guy, but he didn't really have that many. He didn't have that good of numbers last year. And then you got John Bates, who you re-signed, who's primarily like a blocking tight end. So there's a lot of questions there with those older guys that you kind of mentioned.
So, Corey, since we're talking matchups, let me ask you this question. So I know you guys picked up Lattimore last year.
Okay.
And he's got a pretty hefty price tag. And again, thinking of like Surtain, he was like the one guy that, that did some work on Bowers to at least slow him down.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me just think of like, I don't know what your cap situation is, but I also heard like, was it yesterday that Ramsey, he picked out like 4 teams that he said he wouldn't mind playing for. And the Commanders was one of them. But, even with that, having that reduction that he had because the team's already paid, Miami said, we're going to mutually depart. And he's got 21 million on the cap this year. Since it's a team that he mentioned, and yes, that guy's a stud. Do the Commanders have that type of, capital still left in the cap to make a trade for him?
They probably could make it happen. But my thing is with that, what are you going to give up? Because you've got 5 picks this year, and you really haven't cut. I think we may have a.
Wait, you guys only have 5 picks this year?
We only have 5 picks. Yeah, because we gave out I think the Lattimore might have been one of our 3rd picks that went away to New Orleans. So we only have 5 now because of combining that with Laramie Tunsil and trading for Marshawn Lattimore last year. They kind of squeezed it. And really, this was because of an overcorrection of the previous regime. And like I mentioned earlier, you have to figure it out because you didn't think your window was going to open this year. You thought maybe you might have had another opportunity, but now you've got to run through this. And how do you do it? And how do you correct this on the fly? And you can't make any more excuses. You can't blame Ron Rivera and them anymore. It's how do you fix this mess and how do you go forward? Well, he showed you can fix the mess. How can you get to the next level? How can you get to the Super Bowl now? How are we getting to Santa Clara in February?
Well said. Well said.
Well, the short answer would be you're probably not going to like it, is Daron Payne is a proven entity.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm just being honest.
You're saying it's trade bait?
Yeah. And look, I never said you're going to like it. Your face does tell me everything that I thought.
No, I'm thinking. I want to.
But the thing is that he is in an upper tier in his position. He is unique that he can stop the run and he can still rush the passer a little bit. And he's respected. So he's going to be your, I mean, by and large, like I said, I'm looking up and down like the defensive side of your roster. Mm-hmm. There's a strong defensive class this year, but there's going to be folks that would want a proven entity and not risk a draft. Like there's going to be at least a couple teams.
Kind of what they did with Laramie Tunsil, it seems.
Right.
They didn't want to risk it. They were like, let's just get him.
Right. But the thing is that the defense last year was average. Like it wasn't spectacular for the Commanders. And I think that there's a lot of room for growth. Right. It was average. That's like literally definitionally average, right? Mm-hmm. Like right in the middle of the league.
Yeah.
And so you had a really high-powered offense, but you need help on defense. Well, you paid him, you paid Deron, and I think there's going to be some teams that would be interested. I think that you can probably get some draft capital for him to retool in like the day 2, day 3 range. This is a deep defensive class. This is a deep offensive class in some other position groups like running back and tight end and some other positional groups that you've
interior
mentioned.
Line.
Well,
interior line.
What's his contract look like? I mean, if he only got 5 draft picks and he's like one of your best defensive players at a premium position, mm-hmm. and then of course, based on what his contract is, how many teams can take on that type of salary? And you also give up a cornerstone of what you got. Someone you don't. He's built. He's there. You want to build around him. And again, if you only got 5 picks, I mean, there's some good defensive tackles, but they're gonna go fairly early.
Yeah, his cap number's 26 mil this year. So the thing
unless the team's gonna take it all on.
Yeah, the thing about Deron Payne is he goes milk carton sometimes in games, and he's been outperformed by Johnny Newton, who was coming off a foot injury when he was drafted out of Illinois last year, and he was outperformed by Sheldon Day at times, who was a guy that they just signed and picked up off the street, and then you bring in Kinlaw as well, who was not very good. He wasn't a very good draft pick in San Francisco. He was average with the Jets, and that might be being nice about it. So at this point, it's kind of one of those things, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because you got a lot of question marks there. But you're like, hey, we still got Payne here. I mean, do we keep continue? We know what we got with him, and sometimes knowing the devil is better to keep him around than the devil you don't know. So
I think especially since their window's open.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you got rid of Jonathan Allen, and maybe this is another thing too, because sometimes you see he's been living in Jonathan Allen's shadow since he got here. He probably was living in Jonathan Allen's shadow at Alabama. So you got to think about that. They've probably played together for at least 10 years now, combined from Alabama to Washington. This is his time to showcase what he could do. And when he did back in 2022, he got paid for that. So maybe this is changed, because I know fans in Washington that would agree with you today, Rich, would be like, let's go, let's get rid of him, trade whatever we can for him because he's terrible. I'm like, I try to play like, I try to be a pragmatist about that. I'm like,
I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's
good.
No. I think he's good.
Get rid of him. But they'd be like, they think counter to you, but they'd agree with you and and trading him. That's what I'm saying. Like, just come on, like. They trade him because he's bad, and they think we're going to sucker somebody.
Right. Well, I actually think it's the other way around. The thing with defensive interior guys is that you have to be Chris Jones to be on an island and still look good. Like Chris Jones is that guy who can, be the only dude there and still look good. I'd argue Max Crosby's a little bit of the same kind of thing there with the Raiders. Earthquake. Jack just disappeared. I hope he's okay. But in terms of players and whatnot, there's very few guys that can actually sit on an island and kind of look really well, really good. Most defensive units, just like offensive lines, there needs to be complementary pieces and cohesive units in order for them to be extremely successful. So you look at the Super Bowl champions in the Philadelphia Eagles. They were complementary players, right? I know this kills you, but look, I've had to give the Kansas City Chiefs their due in my division, okay? I am right there with you. I would love to not have to do that any longer. It is a personal goal of mine. However, does not change the fact that you cannot or should not be able to objectively look at a divisional opponent and be like, they're just doing it right.
Yeah. No, my thing is with the Eagles is that this 2025 roster of the iteration of the Commanders is everything to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And what does that? And what could we not do in the NFC Championship game? We could not stop the run. We couldn't stop the run. At times we could not protect Jaden Daniels.
Easier said than done, man. That's been like a nightmare for like 10 years.
Right.
We cannot stop the run.
Right. And that's what, and how do you do that? How can you chip at Superman's armor a little bit? Where is your little kryptonite coming from? And I believe that starts in the trenches. I think you did it with Laramie Tunstall. Maybe in, retooling that offensive line a little bit. Maybe that might help us out. So you got to stop Saquon Barkley. There, literally, when I call every game Monday after the game. I call it the Monday after pill, and my shot is Saquon Barkley after the NFC Championship game, and you've got Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner running behind him. We got to find a way to stop that. How do we limit Saquon Barkley? That's where it begins. How do you stop A.J. Brown? How do you stop Jalen Hurts? How can you stop two of those three things from hurting you on the offensive side of the ball? And then how can you penetrate Vic Fangio's defense? Now, we played 2 close games with him in the regular season. And Eagles fans will say we backed into a win, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I'll give you that.
Just win, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's worked out great. That's worked out great for y'all, Jack. But see, I can say that because it seems like he's a joking guy. But so that's that's where it starts at, and how you do that. You gotta lean. I feel like that's what keeps Adam Peters up at night, man. It is trying to feel out. Can Marshawn Lattimore match up with AJ Brown? It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. But can he recoup himself and maybe a year under the system, a whole offseason under system? Maybe he gets right. Maybe he's healthy with his hamstring and everything.
Well, didn't he get hurt? I mean, didn't he miss like 7 games last year?
Bro, we traded for him at the trade deadline, and he did not play his first game until good night living. When did he play? I think he played against the Saints. So that was like 6. That was a 6-week difference there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he was still and there's a lot of that's one of those things. It's just like, God, did we screw this up? Did Adam Peters was this his first misstep?
Especially this day and age with fans, everybody wants immediate results.
Microwave
society. And then kind of how you were talking about, like with the GMs, like was it Howie Roseman, and then in our division, Brett Veach. So it's like you watch these GMs every year just kill it, and they're just stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking, and it's like something that you're hoping that your team wants to do. And I look at you, Corey, and kind of somewhat with Richie, and maybe now with Jack's team, we're all in the beginning phases of it, and so it's like we got to play catch up. But you make 1 or 2 wrong moves, that sets you back. these guys are playing chess, you know what I mean? And it seems like some of these GMs out there are playing checkers and just trying to appease their fans or do something for the owners, and they swing for the fences on some of these prospects. And
I can tell you right now, Dza, I can tell you right now, you can tell the GMs that know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it when they take a pick in the first round. And if you can set your I want cool, flashy, and great stuff aside,
yeah, I know what you're going with. Yeah.
And you can be like, I'm going to use it as a great example. Who do you pick in the first round last year?
Are you talking to me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Joel. We passed on. Yep. Our
Right.
fan base was livid.
Right. Okay. How did you do last year? Hold on, Jack. How did you do last year?
He was awesome. He should have made all pro, but he
but that's exactly my point. Like literally that's exactly my point. So how can you tell that you have a GM and a head coach that actually kind of know GM that listens to the head coach that communicates properly to the GM, and then more importantly, a GM that's not listening to the Twitterverse or Xverse, whatever you want to call it, and be like, wide receiver.
Yep.
Or
kind of go back to Corey's point about the trenches.
Cornerback. It's like, yeah, corners are great. Do you know what? I got one of the best in the league. And if you actually go back and watch my take when we drafted Surtain, my literally number one thing was I hate the pick. And I hated the pick, not because I didn't think Surtain was a good player. And I'm on record saying this, so I can't revisionist history this nonsense. I've been on the internet long enough.
You're owning your shit right now.
I gotta own it. I gotta own it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. Why? Because I felt that, or I knew rather, that my team held a really, really high draft pick, and we were devoid of quarterback talent. We were also devoid of offensive line talent. And we were also lacking, not completely lacking, but lacking in some defensive line talent as well. And every other team that I have seen be successful in the NFL, whether it be the Kansas City Chiefs, whether it be the Eagles, or whether it be any number of other teams that have actually made it to the Super Bowl and won, they have had to have incredibly strong trench play, whether that be on the offensive line, defensive line, or both. Right? And it's just a fact. It is exactly what it is, and there's no getting around it. And the problem is that when we got a cornerback, and trust me, I knew he was going to be a relatively good one, although he had issues. And he's only now just recently started to really course correct some of those issues in Pat Surtain, which is why he started here and now he's way up. He's way up there, right? But he had issues, and he's slowly but surely
on the other side.
Yeah, he's slowly but surely come over to the peak of the mountain now, where he's actually corrected those issues and improved upon them. But I saw those issues coming out of college, and he got burned a bunch of games. And a lot of the fans that were, big fans of Pat Surtain, I liked the pick. I just didn't like it for my team, and that was kind of how I framed it. And I didn't want my team to pick him, because I knew what
Richie, I am right there with you. I totally get it. So I look at 2 years ago, the Raiders drafted Michael Mayers. They traded up in the second round. When the Raiders came to pick 13 last year, half of Raider Nation, we weren't even thinking about Bowers. We were thinking he was going to be gone. We thought he was going to go to the Chargers. So we were looking at, we want the best right tackle in the draft, and they were both sitting there. And when they drafted Bowers, I was like, what the heck are we doing? Okay, we thought we took the best tight end the year before, and now we're taking another tight end. What are you doing? But sometimes, just like Surtain, these kids can surprise you. So, again, the flashy toy. I wanted the right tackle, but now looking back on it, it was the right move. I mean, he's I could say generational player.
No, yes and no. He is a generational player, and he's excellent. The question is, are you willing to wait the now requisite 3 to 5 years to get yourself through the ebbs and flows that are going to be inevitable, now that you basically forewent that really high draft pick that you had in that draft, or the higher round draft pick that you had in that draft, where you
it's 13th.
Where you could have packaged another pick and gone up and got a quarterback of the future. You could have gotten that right tackle, which, let's be honest, I'm sorry, as good as Bowers is, a right tackle that can be with you for a decade is a more valuable player for any team than any tight end at all, because the tight end is still a very dependent position. The tight end requires.
But he does more than just a regular tight end. He just doesn't line up as a tight end. He can line up as your X. He can line up your Z. He can line up in your slot. He can play halfback if you really wanted him to.
He's like a joke.
You're literally only.
But I will say this: talking about what's coming out today is that Colton Miller's, our left tackle, is sitting out voluntary camp because he's got no more money on his deal. And then it just came out with Spytech and Adam Scheffner. Spytech said, you know what? Hey, what I built and what got my Super Bowl run when we started off Christian Wirfs, getting him at the right tackle. Adam Scheffner came out today and says, don't be surprised if the pick's not Genty. If it's going to be I can't say his name, Matumbo.
Membu. That's Captain Jack's favorite guy. He's probably one of the best O linemen with the Ohio State guy, but Membu's traits are outstanding.
That's exactly what Corey was kind of getting at. That's exactly what I'm getting at, which is
Mizzou, I believe.
The best teams in this league prioritize the less sexy picks and players to the detriment of the narrative on Twitter. Because, of course, all fans want to see is like the one-handed catch where they're like, woo! Yep. They want the highlight reel. But guess what? You're able to throw the ball for the one-handed catch because you have a right tackle that hopefully you're going to pick up in this year's draft that enables your quarterback to actually throw the ball to the wide receiver in order to then make that one-handed catch. Like, that's the difference. Now, Jack, the one thing that your team has done this year, which is a little bit unique, and I actually think that it really is a saving grace for your team, and I really hope that Raiders fans actually appreciate and understand it, which is you got your quarterback, but you were able to do so as like a free agency pickup in Geno. I actually think he's a good player. Like, I think he's way better. Like, awesome your quarterback has been – he's a late bloomer, so that's clear, but he's actually ascending as a quarterback in the league rather than declining as he's gone through the league. And
he just has one bad trait, and that's his interceptions. If he can tone those down.
Yes, but last year he didn't have that problem.
He had 15.
No, he did. 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. So that's not a great ratio, but he is one of the most accurate passers.
Yeah.
And I will say, the way to look at it for you guys, that you may not know this, but it really was a trade, Devontae Adams for Geno, because we used a pick that we got from the Jets in the third round and gave it, sent it off to the Seahawks.
Right. So now that we're talking like trenches and how we compare, I think it'd be really interesting to shift gears and go Chargers and Commanders as a direct head-to-head, looking at your Alton Slater combination there as your bookend tackles, which are,
Kai Becton.
Let's get real here, Corey. We wish, right? Like we collectively wish, right? So
I'm in that wish too.
Yeah. So Corey, what are your thoughts on the Chargers compared to the Commanders and looking ahead and what you're up against?
Well, I will tell you they had the best theme song when they were in San Diego. Something about those Superchargers.
Superchargers.
Yeah, man. I sang that song a lot. I mean,
POD was my favorite. I don't know if you ever heard that one for the Chargers anthem. The POD were like big San Diego Chargers fans, and they had the Chargers anthem, and that was the best song. But it's no longer relevant since they're in LA now, so that's sad. But I'll still listen to it on Sundays, get pumped up a little because I'm a San Diego kid, so it is what it is.
All right, my biggest thing, I think, offensively, y'all got some dogs here. I mean, what, you bring back Mike Williams, right? You bring him, hopefully he can be serviceable for you. I mean, Joe Alt, you bring in Mekhi Becton this year, Rashawn Slater. I love Rashawn Slater coming out of the draft.
I hope they pay him this in the summer.
I remember somebody clowned me because I said, we need to get this guy. He could be a great replacement for what we lost the previous year in Trent Williams. They were like, well, they went to Northwestern. And what's your point? That was my biggest thing is you guys are physical. The biggest question I have about you is your quarterback. That's just, I mean, Herbert, they took the ball out of his hands and we still don't know. Like he's the big, I feel like he is the biggest enigma at the quarterback position in the NFL to be so heralded and do absolutely to me, just do absolutely nothing. He just seems like he's a blip on the radar, but the Chargers did great in spite of him, I think, this year. Am I missing the mark on that? Or is that like, I don't know what that is in Chargers world, but I mean, you got Harbaugh, physical guy. He's going to grind you into the ground. Very familiar. Dan Quinn is with him when he was the defense coordinator in Seattle. So, I mean, and we go out to LA. So I feel like it's going to be a bloodbath out there.
So I predict that my prediction is that you guys are going to Brazil with us for that Friday.
Oh God, game. No! I don't no.
It's between you, Houston, and one other team that could it be.
The Texans would be great, and it would be great in Houston.
So then that would make sense as a rematch, playoff rematch.
Yes,
but I got a feeling they're not going to do that, and they're gonna go with. It's gonna be the Commanders.
Is that a Friday night game? Is that the Friday night game? Crap.
Look, I'm not excited about it because we lose a home game, but we still will have more home games than away games this season. So
I don't like this. I really don't like that. No, that's no. They can't put us out there. It'll be somebody else. They don't. We're not going out there. We're not going out there. We might go to where's Miami at this year? Are they in Spain? Germany or Spain, one of the two. We might go there with Miami or something, but I don't think we don't need to go to Brazil. I'm good. Stay out of Brazil.
Yeah. Well, look, I would love my LA team not having to fly 12 hours to go to not a great country, but whatever, it is what it is. And look, the team that won the Super Bowl kicked it off in Brazil last season, so
yeah. So we're saying that's a preview, right? We're saying that's a preview. Whoever wins it, and it was a rematch of a playoff game too. So maybe this is Super Bowl
might be
preview.
Houston then, if you're gonna say if it's a playoff rematch.
Well, no, remember I'm saying it was the Packers in the it was the Packers and the Eagles, and then they played in a rematch in the playoffs.
So then that might be Houston then.
No,
damn it. Well,
good.
We gotta get our O-line figured out because in that playoff game, Herbert had no time to throw, and he only had one guy to throw to, and that was Ladd McConkey, who had I think 200 yards. Yeah, and it sucks that Ladd's one of his best friends or good friends is Brock Bowers. There goes softening our rivalry in the AFC West. Everybody's a friend now, and it's a jersey swap era. Like, what happened to hating these guys, you know?
Well, that really made the games is when you saw the dudes at the like even during and at the end of the game where they were just like, I detest you.
Yep. And now it's like, hey, let me get your jersey, bro. I got you.
They do it in game now. That's the craziest thing. Is they're like, hey, let's sweat. Let me get your jersey. They'll say that in the second quarter of a game. I'm like, what are we doing?
So
that's like JPJ and Herbert. I saw them taking pictures and swapping jerseys.
Well, I mean, they were teammates.
Oregon guys.
But Brock was in Ladd McConkey's wedding, I believe, just like a couple weeks ago. So that's why I'm like, oh, okay, so they're really boys.
Yeah.
But so now I know Corey's on that other side with Herbert. So now I know he's on that other side. And that's fine. That's fair because, like, during the game against Houston, he did some really uncharacteristic stuff that he didn't do all season. He had, I think, like 3 interceptions the whole season, and then he had that just horrible game against Houston. Houston just teed off, Joe Alt didn't have a good game either. I mean, the whole line was they were getting beat like dogs. I mean, Houston brought everybody, and they did their homework. They knew. They're like, who's Justin going to throw to? One guy, and they're like, that's fine. We'll just let this one little 5'10" white boy beat us, but we're going to beat him every other way. But no, I still believe in Justin. I think he was built in a lab, to be honest with you. I mean, it's like if you wanted to build a QB, that's what it would look like if you built him in a lab. It's just, you got to remember, he's had, I don't know, this is his 4th coach in the NFL, is like his 5th OC offensive coordinator. They're building a line. This is like this new regime now. And they're like, let's get this guy a run game. And the run game really didn't work off. This Greg Roman scheme did not work last season, to be honest with you. And then when J.K. Dobbins went down, it was like, all right, now we got to throw this. So they really didn't run the scheme they want to run. And we'll see if it happens in 2.0 of the Harbaugh regime. We'll see. I mean, I think they got to hit it out of the park in this draft. They got 10 picks. So I think if they can get 4 really good contributors, which they'll need, they should be fine. But my biggest thing is obviously weapons, but it's going to be some pass rush juice, because they lost Puna, and then they lost another guy that's not really well known in Morgan Fox, and those were interior pass rush guys. So they're going to need that, especially if they're going against Jaden Daniels, because Jaden, he broke the rookie record for rushing as well. I think it was like 800 and something yards or something like that. So when this guy gets out of the pocket, he's elusive. And, especially in these days in the NFL, it's like you can't touch the QB, so they just run to the sidelines, the whole nine. It's going to be an interesting game. It'd be fun to go against Austin Eckler, because I'm sure he's got a chip on his shoulder with how that went down. And, I don't blame him. There is a little bit of bad blood between him and the fans with the Chargers, but I think it's like there's like some mutual respect. Like, he was a really good player when he was in LA, San Diego, LA. Or no, he was never in San Diego, so Costa Mesa in LA. But yeah, it'll be kind of cool seeing him again. I don't know how to expect to match up with them. The Commanders just seem like a really high-powered offense. And even though the Chargers defense was really good points-wise last year, with that zone scheme, it might work to benefit the Commanders. Like, we'll see. I don't know. It'll be fun.
It's gonna be a high-scoring game.
That's not how
now,
the Chargers.
I feel like it's gonna be like. I feel like it's gonna be like more of a keep away. I feel like they're gonna run the ball, like kind of like what you were saying. I think it's gonna be. I think this would be one of those patented under game. It'd be a sneaky under game. Like, people be saying this will be over, but it's gonna be kind of more of those physical, kind of grinded out.
I mean,
games.
To get back to what Jack's saying, is a high scoring game. Like, if they run the scheme they want to run, that really only worked like a few games last season, it's not a high scoring. It's a low scoring. And kind of, Corey, what you're saying, like, take the ball out of Justin's hands, like, that doesn't make sense. He's a really prolific passer. So, but what he excels on is, those RPO plays. So I think they want that run game to be a formidable thing. And I think with Najee, it will be, especially with that right side of that O-line being Mekhi Becton and Joe Alt. They're definitely going to be running the ball behind those two guys. And Justin loves to roll out to the right. So they just need to get a couple more guys, some dynamic weapons. They did bring Jack Conklin. They brought back Mike, like you said, who surprisingly was healthy for 18 games last season, which was nothing we've seen as a Charger. That's another thing, kind of, Corey, to go back, is like he's never had a healthy group of guys. Like, everybody was like, oh, this guy had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They only played 6 games together during their whole tenure. 6 games, and people were like, Trust is so overrated. I get that, because you had the Tennessee collapse and then the Houston. So he's 0-2 in the playoffs. Jaden Daniels comes in, wins 2 playoff games. It's amazing. So it's like, it's like this ebony and ivory. It's the yin and yang. We'll see. I don't know.
He's borderlining on the next Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins iteration.
That's fair.
And that's what, and because I heard those excuses for Kirk in Washington. You probably heard them. Some people who defend Dak Prescott, we hear the same thing about that. Now, I feel like Dak is more on a different level because he's basically had good weapons throughout his career in Dallas. But I mean, at some point, and this is year 6.
He's going into year 6.
Sometimes we got at some point it's going
to or get off the pot.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why I'd say the excuses got to go out of the door on him. No matter.
The thing is though, excuses are like assholes. Everybody has them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I used to get called out for excuses all the time. This fucking kid legitimately has excuses.
Yeah.
And it's in it, but us fans, we don't care unless you're a Chargers fan.
Yeah.
Every other fans, they hear his name being compared as like a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback, right? And they're like, what the hell has this kid done? He hasn't won a playoff game, and the 2 playoff games he did play on, they got something ridiculous from like in a movie happen, so I agree. It's like I was pissed after that Houston game, and I'm starting to go. I was starting to question it as well, but now I'm like, all right, let's see what happens in year 2 with a real coaching staff, a real GM. Let's go but you're right. The excuses are getting old.
Right,
it's getting old.
But I will say this to the counter: he is not the quarterback that should be running. Greg Roman needs to evolve as an offense coordinator.
That was probably the worst hire.
Right.
That was the worst hire.
Because his styles are, one, Colin Kaepernick and Lamar Jackson.
Justin's not those guys.
But once they solve the offense, there's no innovation there with him. And it gets stagnant. We saw that last year in San Francisco. We saw the last couple of years in Baltimore. He had an MVP type season. I think Roman was the offensive coordinator then, and he never really regained that. I mean, you could say injuries or whatnot, but still.
And the thing is that we have to stick with this guy because Justin's extremely smart. He's like some biology major dude. Like the kid's got a brain, but it's like, how many more OCs can you throw at this guy? So they already screwed up by bringing in Jim's buddy, Greg, because they're like, you're stuck with this guy now.
Let me ask you this, though. Is he that alpha?
Who? Justin?
Yeah.
They say he is. Like, he's one of those guys like lead by example, but he's not a rah. Actually, this season surprised the fan base, though, because we watched the games. We saw him be a lot more vocal, a lot more like what the fuck are you? God damn it, line up.
Yeah, that was a knock on him during the draft process too.
Yeah,
because I remember people would say when we drafted Chase Young, they were like, we should have drafted. I was telling people we should have drafted Justin. No, y'all wanted Dr. Concussion. You wanted Tua Tagovailoa. Nobody was really talking about Justin Herbert in that draft
I think it's because he was supposed to come out the year before.
Right.
And then he stayed one more year.
Exactly. And that's kind of to my point is like, is he that alpha?
He doesn't have a swag like look, your QB like was cool as cucumbers, rookie year, 1-2 playoff games. Like I think Jaden was also the guy with that started the VR goggles thing, kind of which was really cool, and I think a lot of teams are going to be following suit. Mm-hmm. The kid needed to be trusted. One season you have this head coach, and then you have this OC, and now the next season it's a different head coach and another OC, and guys are coming in and out. Your O-line's a freaking hot mess. So, he might be, and I hate to say it, if he goes down the Geno Smith path, it might take him a while, but look, the Chargers aren't known for being one of the best organizations, so I think they're kind of like. Go ahead, Rich.
I agree. I actually think what the challenge that Justin Herbert has right now is he's not grabbed the bull by the horns. And I think that's fair. I just think it is. He is not really grabbed the bull by the horns. And the reason for that is that when Keenan Allen went down with an injury or two, or Mike Williams went down with an injury or two, the elevated quarterbacks, the ones that we continue to talk about even years after they retired and all that sort of thing, which Herbert actually has the skill set to be included in a conversation like that. Josh Allen, I would actually argue, is somewhat similar to Justin Herbert in the fact that
Josh just runs with reckless abandonment. So
right, but the point is that they're both gifted. Like they are undeniably gifted throwers of the football. And I think you can look at both of them and be like, wow, they can both throw the ball and they're both doing it well. The problem is that they both are not elevating their game and elevating their play when their team requires it the most. They are not taking full control of the game when their team needs them to basically stop the madness and control the ship. And I think Josh Allen struggles in that regard. Despite being a great dude by all accounts, Justin Herbert, despite being a great dude on all accounts, seems to have the exact same hurdle as Josh Allen that they both need to.
It's a bull's curse.
Yeah,
it could be very well. I thought we left San Diego because I think San Diego's a cursed city, and going to LA would change some stuff, but so far it hasn't. Yeah, so I thought we got that monkey off our back. But.
Yeah, so that's my issue actually with both of those quarterbacks is they haven't when the challenge has presented itself, they didn't do what Jaden Daniels did. Like, if that makes sense, like. The chips were down. They needed to come back. They needed to do the thing to win. They needed to elevate the game. They needed the quarterback to keep his head on straight. They needed the quarterback to galvanize the troops, if you will. Like all of those sorts of things. You know, insert every other analogy you wish to kind of make the point, right? But those are really, really important things for a truly gifted quarterback to go from kind of good to really good, and then the elite quarterbacks take that even to the next level.
We'll see, because there's some QBs.
No, hold on. I'm going to just cap this off and then over to you. Is I think a great example of an elite level quarterback who took that to the next level is what you saw from Peyton Manning against the Chargers, where we were down by like 21 or 23.
Yeah, but how long did it take Peyton Manning to do that?
Right.
It took Peyton Manning a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what who knows? I'm not saying Justin's Peyton. Like, that's crazy. They're two different guys.
No, but I'm just saying is that's what those quarterbacks that are in that upper bracket are able to do, right?
And we thought after Justin's rookie year, like, we're like, oh shit, like, watch this. And then, you know, we had insert Brandon Staley, and there we go. Mm-hmm. All hell breaks loose. And
I like to call him Madden Staley. Oh,
that's
it's like
3 years of my life.
Fourth and 30. We're gonna go for it, like, you know, fourth down like 10 times in a game.
I mean, this is that's what I'm talking. This was this. I think literally the organization is like, man, we got to be a serious organization. This was just unserious nonsense that we've had for a while, and we'll see. But yeah, I agree with Corey's sentiments. Is like the excuses have got to stop sooner or later. And I'm like, I agree. This kid just doesn't need any more bad luck. I mean, remember last season he came in with plantar fasciitis. Like, he missed like a huge portion of training camp. He couldn't even. And I will tell you, he is one of the toughest sons of bitches I've ever seen play the quarterback position. He doesn't miss any time, any game. He got his ribs crushed in against Kansas City.
Yeah.
You know, could barely move, could barely walk. If that was any other quarterback in this league, Caleb Williams, any of these other Muppets, they'd be gone. They'd be done for 2 months. He sticks it out. They're like, shoot him up, let's go. And what does he do? Like 2 plays later, throws a rocket to, I think it was Mike Williams, somebody. So it's like, this kid's tough, dude. He's got a good brain, so just build around him and let's see what happens. And they haven't had a team or anything stable around him in his whole career. And it sucked. It sucks because I see it. There's some other people see it, but now there's a lot of people who are like, what the what the hell, man? We keep seeing this guy being talked about as one of the greatest, and he hasn't done shit. And I agree. So I'm like, I see both sides of it. So, but Corey, I had a question real quick, and then we can transition. But kind of goes with both our teams heading into the next season, because we're going to have tougher schedules going into next season, right? Both second place schedules. Do you see any regression with either with Jaden Daniels, because that kind of sometimes happens with rookie QBs, and then B, as a team as a whole?
I think that we won 12 games last year. I think there could be some regression. I think you could win 10 games, but still be in a better spot than you were last year. So I do think that there may be the proverbial somewhat slump, but look at CJ Stroud, right? Had a slump, but still won the division once again.
Yeah.
And granted, that's a weak division. I get that. But he still made enough plays in the team and helped carry him into that spot, into getting into the second week of the playoffs. So let's not undersell that. So I think there could be an opportunity for that, because there's probably going to be a learning curve with some of these new receivers. If Michael Gallup makes the roster or something, he's going to be learning these guys. Noah Brown coming back from an injury. Like I said, Zach Ertz and company, right? Zach Ertz is going to be 36 this year, 35. So
Michael Gallup coming back?
Yeah, Michael Gallup. We signed him a few weeks ago. Yeah, he came back out of retirement. So
everybody wants to play with the Commanders.
We like these old Dallas Cowboy wide receivers who, kind of worked out. But
they want to stick it to Jerry, man.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to stick it to Jerry? I purposely do not give to the Salvation Army because of Jerry Jones. So, that's how petty I am.
I say this because, the Commander system, that was year one. And then for my team, that was kind of like year one, even though there's a lot of familiarity with a lot of other teams. So it's like now teams, we'll see, we have tougher schedules. Both our teams have tougher schedules. Yeah. And now there's film on what you guys wanted to do. And now there's film on Jaden. So that's me being kind of like cautiously optimistic as well. Because I'm like, a lot of people are like, you saw we went, 11-5 or whatever.
That's last year.
And I'm like, pump the brakes, man. This is going to be a whole. I've seen my schedule, my opponents. I think there's like 9 teams that were in the playoffs. So I'm like, my God, here we go.
Yeah, we're playing the North, and we play you guys. I don't know who we're going on the road against in the AFC. I think it would be the South. It might be the South. I think we might play somebody in the AFC South. Yeah, because it'd be that off year. So, I mean, it's crazy. But I do think that there's regression because teams are going to be better. I think the Cowboys are going to be better. The Giants are going to be better, right? The Eagles are going to be the Eagles. So right there, those are 6 games that you're going to have to recreate 4 wins out of to even get you in the conversation. We play you all who had 2 teams in the playoffs. Or 3 teams in the playoffs. Excuse me. Sorry. And right there, that's kind of doing. And then the North was the perceived best division in football. I think we go to Minnesota. Yeah, I think we go to Minnesota, and we go to I think Green Bay. I think we go to Green Bay this year. So
tough schedule.
Wow, you got a whopping schedule.
Yeah. So I mean, there is going to be perceived a regression, but yet and still, everybody starts out 0-0 because, like I said, going into last year, I thought we were going to be 7-10. I'm not going to say here and say I think we're going to be 14-3 this year because, law of average, we're going to go up. No, I mean, there's an opportunity for a letdown. And, we just you got to be prepared, though. And
I got you guys betting odds. I think it's 10.5.
Yeah,
right now.
Great. Yeah, that's crazy. That's whew. Give me 8 or 9. Give me 8 or 9.
That's what I'd like. I would love that, too. because they put 10.5 on the Chargers, and I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, we'll see. We got the ghost of Mike Williams. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But look, we got a good draft coming up next week, so there's that.
So let's dive into this, Corey. Broncos versus Commanders. We got battle of the sophomore quarterbacks. Both were in the same conversation, neck and neck, for a good portion of the season until the Broncos had a couple games where they started slipping and didn't, perform to really where they should have in some of them. And Nick's numbers were not as good as they should have been to kind of keep him in that conversation. So obviously, it is what it is. But Nick's was in that conversation is the point. So you're literally in rare air in dealing with two teams with rookie quarterbacks in their first year that were both in the kind of rookie of the year, conversation coming up against each other in year two. So that's kind of rare. And you have both teams that are in what appears to be successful rebuilds, at least on the surface. So, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting parallels between the two teams. I do think that my Denver Broncos are a little bit ahead of where the Commanders are in terms of building blocks overall. Like, I just think that Sean Payton was able to get rid of some of the, we'll call them poison pills on the roster because he's just been there an extra year. So I think that that's kind of helpful. I'm really interesting to see where you think our two rosters sit.
I mean, yeah, I can see where you think your roster is better than ours because
I never said it was better.
Well, that's got the edge. Excuse me, that's got the edge, pretty much, in that respect. But Bo Nix, everybody thought he was going to be the worst quarterback in the in that first round, right? And look what happened. He went out there and proved everybody wrong.
I did not, but I did think he should sit.
Yeah, you did say for him to sit.
I did not. I always thought that Bo Nix was going to do very well. I just thought that he should sit for 4 games or so to allow him to get up to speed with the NFL to avoid the shell shock that can sometimes occur to quarterbacks.
Oh, Jack, that's shameful, Jack. That's shameful. That's so shameful. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Oh, absolutely not. He broke all the records, man.
Oh, man.
You can't break records. And
oh, man. I hear you.
They just have to have a separate award.
He's just not a quarterback, That's all.
Quarterbacks will always win it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I see. Y'all have more opportunity to get better, but there's a lot of familiarity between these two coaches, right? Dan Quinn and Sean Payton. They were duking it out in the NFC South for years, and they were the class of the division. Y'all didn't bring my boy back this year. I saw the linebacker that we had. Who did y'all get from us late? Cody. What was his name?
Pardon?
Yeah. Y'all didn't bring him back. Yeah. How did he do for y'all last year? I didn't really pay attention to him.
He played well, but he was a splash player guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't start until after Singleton went down, and then kind of Barton and Stranad and stuff kind of interchanged and did some stuff there. The challenge with Barton, or the issue with Barton, is that he overplayed what his contract was. So I'll give him credit where credit's due in terms of just generally statistically.
Right.
But when kind of push came to shove, he got torched.
Yeah.
Badly torched. But he had these splash plays that kind of were a yin to that yang, where he would intercept a pass. I think he had 3 interceptions or 4 interceptions last year.
Yeah, he had a pick 6 for us one.
And so it's clear that he's got the ball skills to potentially do it, but then he's also got the lack of coverage skills where, if teams target him, he gets absolutely just destroyed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good match. I mean, y'all got some good defense. Y'all got some good offensive linemen. I think that offense, any offense under Sean Payton is going to be formidable. And with our defenses and the holes that we have, I see y'all still got Marvin Mims. He put on a clinic against us back in 23. I think he had like 2 touchdowns against us. And I mean, where he beat us wide but open a couple of times. So, I mean, he's still out there. Evan Ingram coming. Are you going to get the Evan Ingram that was in Jacksonville, or are you going to get the guy who was in New York? Depending on what strain of that marijuana he gets, I mean, we'll see out there. And Cortland Sutton's always is a tough dude to cover. So, I mean, offensively, I want to be interested what my defense, what my defense is going to do against you all, because like I talked about the questions there's questions at every level. We don't have an edge rusher, right? So how are you going to set the table to get to a Bo Nix? Are we going to make a move in that on the draft, or are we going to make a trade for somebody in the Queen City in Ohio? Don't know, but we'll see. That's to be considered. I actually saw something else that they were talking about. TJ Watt possibly getting involved in the trade. I saw that. I don't believe that, because that's one of those sensationalist X pages. So I don't dabble in that. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what that is.
It's lying season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right. Especially we're a week 8 days away from the draft. Yeah, it's definitely in that respect. I think defensively, y'all can give us fits with what you got there, especially you talk about your boy Surtain. The one thing I will say, I will say that Denver has not won in Washington since '98 Super Bowl season. But granted, we haven't played that much since then. But that can be a different adjustment for those teams. But we've had some good games against you all. I remember in 2001 we came up there. Marty Schottenheimer finally won a game in Denver.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace to Shotty. And so I mean, I think it's gonna be another good game. I just think historically, when we play the AFC West, there's always some really good games to be played, because there's so much history and tradition between the Raiders and the Skins, the Broncos and the Skins playing in the Super Bowl. Y'all played the Giants in the Super Bowl. The Raiders beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Y'all played the Cowboys. So we've all kind of interchanged there. So I think, and I don't think people realize that's probably, we're probably got a real good interconference rivalry between our divisions and just where we've met in the Super Bowls and stuff. And they're always good games. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a dogfight.
Was the last time we played the NFC was 4 years ago or something?
Yeah, y'all played us.
So that was when you guys got was that Chase Young?
Second
year. That was
the second year, because he went up against Rashawn Slater, and I remember that game. And people
smothered him.
Yep.
Yeah, Rashawn smothered him. Yep.
But I remember that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard for me to say right now, the week before the draft, to say hey, let's go. But I mean, I got 5, so I'm always going to give us a slight edge with 5. I don't really care what the odds are, because he has defied the undefiable multiple times. So as long as we got that dude under center, I give us a slight edge in that X factor.
I agree. You guys actually got a unique quarterback in Jaden Daniel, which has traditionally, he's certainly on trajectory in that direction. I think we need to pump the brakes for now to show that he can stack that a couple years in a row, which I think is a fair take, which is my take on Bo Nix as well, is that I need to see him start to take those steps forward and continue to correct some of the mistakes that we saw him make this past year, and kind of do what Pat Surtain has done. Actually, I actually think that is, if I'm going to use an analogy, it's not so much that I didn't like Pat Surtain as I saw that he had a bunch of weaknesses, and I saw that he was a flashy position, but an interior defensive lineman that's elite. Like, who's the dude that's the big, massive guy on the Eagles?
Carter.
Jalen Carter.
Carter. Biggest Raider mistake in a long time.
Yeah, a lot of people got screwed on that.
Just have dudes fall to them.
The dude's just massive. Like the dude's just enormous. Like, and he ran like a 4.3 or not 4.3, like a 4.5 or 4.4.
I'm calling James Pierce to fall to them in this draft too. Watch.
It's gonna be something stupid. I mean, Cooper DeJean, we traded picks with them, and then they wound up drafting Cooper DeJean in the second round. So I mean, they just
Corey, I can't stand Eagles fans. So
they're scum of the earth.
They are the worst. They used to be that. Like, I used to think of the Raiders and the Eagles were like just like the same thing, but on different coasts.
They're Saints.
The Raiders fan base isn't really like that anymore. They were like, I don't know, 20 years ago. But the Eagles fans, they are the trashiest fan base in the league.
Are absolute, complete, and utter scum.
I'm rooting for you guys every time you play against someone.
I would root for the Taliban before I ever root for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, that leads me to a question for all you guys right now. So, again, that was a big swing and a miss by the Raiders. Carter and Tyree were sitting out there, and the Raiders took Tyree. Huge mistake. Set us back.
They went traits on that.
That was horrible.
Oh, no, that was production, because didn't Tyree have way better production in college?
No, well, Tyree, he came out. He had that foot injury as well, kind of like, the Pitts, the plantar fasciitis, like what your quarterback, some foot injury, just like the defensive end from Penn State. But I'm just kind of curious, and I want to start off with Corey. So, like, if the draft goes the way you've kind of seen it, and you're sitting there and you got a couple guys that that potentially would be there, who do you want to take in the first round?
Oh gosh, people ask me this, and I personally believe you go best defensive player, whoever that is, whether it's that the corner out of Kentucky, if Mike Green from Marshall kind of slips down, I would like to see him, kind of a local guy right there in Huntington, West Virginia.
That's a guy too, yeah.
Yeah, I want them to get the best defensive player, preferably edge rusher, on the board. And it doesn't really matter to me in that respect who it is, but because I think that I trust Dan Quinn and this defensive staff to coach these kids up and get them right. You've got a former former defensive tackle in Daryl Tapp, who's the defensive line coach, so he's played at a high level. So and Ryan Kerrigan is the pass rush specialist, who's our all-time leading sacker. So they're in good hands. I don't care who it is. If they get the right guy for the culture and everything like that, they can coach him up, and this guy can go in here, and I think they can wreak havoc. It could be the kid from Boston College if he falls down. Yeah, if he comes down there, and the harder their name is.
Small, man. That's his problem.
Hey,
he's like,
if he's fit, he's quick though. So mean, sometimes that makes up, and that's what we've seen from Dan Quinn. Is look at old boy that we had last year, Fowler, who's back in Dallas this year.
Dante.
He was quick. Yeah,
Dante Fowler,
yeah. He had 10 sacks last year. He was our leading sacker. He wasn't big, but he was quick. And that led to sacks for him. Now he was on a milk carton in an NFC Championship game.
And technique matters there too. You can be smaller, but if you get coached up on technique, you can make up for the difference.
The thing with you're right. The thing about Ezraku is just like anytime a tackle's got their paws on him, they can stop. They stop him. But he's a finesse guy. So if that works, then sure, that works with. If Dan won't, they can work with that, then why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
What pick is it? What pick do you guys have?
We have 29, so it's gonna go it could go anywhere at this point.
Okay. I just need you guys to screw over the Eagles because, like we see every year, somebody falls to the Eagles.
They get so lucky. They draft super well, but they get lucky that so many bad GMs do bad picks that these picks fall so far back, and they just make the right ones.
They panic, and then Howard Roseman comes in there, and he's like an ambulance chaser, pretty much, and he's like,
exactly,
call me 1-800-HOWIE. We'll get you out of the scope. So
that's perfect. That's a perfect analogy.
It's like, oh my gosh, man! But I hope that everything bad in the world happens to the Eagles.
That's why I said James Pierce or like a Mike Green, because they both have these quote unquote off-field issues, and it's usually those type of guys that slide and that will fall into the Eagles' laps.
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh God, give me a break, man! Like, not again.
Yep, there and then Sirianni is the worst kind of human being in the world too. So that just cakes on it too. So.
Yeah, so just kind of quickly tying up the Broncos Commanders piece, I think that where Sean Payton has kind of brought the roster to, because Sean Payton for the Denver Broncos, it's an interesting dynamic between the two Paytons. So we have George Payton and Sean Payton. George Payton is the roster guy, the GM, but Sean Payton has a little bit more say than the average head coach.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the dynamic between the two of them, which is, I guess, to be expected in some regards, given the fact that he's got a pretty solid vision in terms of what he's looking to build as a head coach, and he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. So there's a little extra, oomph in terms of what he says within the organization. And he's also proven that he can continue to build and grow and improve the organization year over year as well, which is something to be said as well. I do see that Sean, at least, has started to remove the guys that I was critiquing over the years. Guys that were household names that people really liked, but when you truly looked at their play on the field, it seemed that they kind of mailed it in, or as you put, Corey, found their way to the back of a milk carton in the middle of the game. So I'll give you one example. So Justin Simmons was a tremendously popular Denver Bronco safety position. He had a knack for intercepting the ball. There's absolutely no taking that away from him. And yes, business decisions would be certainly one thing that a lot of players would often refer to those sorts of things as. But it's the little things within the game. Like, so for example, as a safety, they're there to play cleanup. They're there to kind of like reinforce the linebackers when the running backs are able to start running downhill. Where Justin Simmons was kind of known for taking really bad angles at running backs when they were running in the field. And in fact, you need to look no further than, say, the Buffalo game, where Justin Simmons kept taking like the worst possible angle that you could take to try to tackle a guy. And it was almost all for show. It was like, look, I tried to tackle him, but he made it past me. And it's like, that didn't help. The dude scored a touchdown. Like, you're the safety. You're the last line of defense. You need to square your shoulders, box him out, and stop him. Now, if he runs over you then maybe we have to have different discussions. But if you're just going to try to arm tackle a running back who's 225 pounds running full speed downhill, you're not going to stop him with your right arm. You're just not. You are not big enough to do it. And it's the little things like that kind of make or break that position and those types of players. And so we've gotten rid of some of those guys. Nice guys, fantastic people off the field, right? This is the thing. I critique the player for their play on the field. There are a ton of players that were incredible human beings off the field. Justin Simmons certainly seems to be one of those players who was just an absolute standout human being and deserves credit for all the work that he did within the community. But his play on the field left a lot to be desired because it seemed to be a statistics-driven style player. I put Russell Wilson in that same category. His stats looked great. His play on the field actually sucked when you saw what he was actually doing. He had his best touchdown to interception ratio and all that kind of stuff. But the dude was losing games left and right, and he was often the reason why we were losing games left and right, because you look at other stats that they don't track or show on the PFF stat page and all that stuff, like holding on to the ball for too long, like running both directions, left and right, which basically then leaves your offensive lineman questioning Where's my QB and who do I need to block? Like little things like that actually make a difference, right? And so the thing is that I think that we've gotten rid of a lot of those guys. We've gotten rid of kind of the deadwood or the driftwood on the team, and we've started to replace them with warm bodies that can actually do the right thing and help the team out. So that's my thought on my Denver Broncos and why it's not just the starters on the team that I think that are going to make the difference in the games for us this year. It's the fact that we've culled the driftwood or the deadwood, and we've continued to build out the depth within the roster for a certain type and caliber of player. DZ is in the throes of the same thing, except he is also 1 year behind the culling and reworking of the roster and stuff like that within the
Broncos,
right. And arguably, Jack is now in the very early stages of that same thing within the division.
They gutted the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
Jack.
So again, this is the whole point, right? Is that as you're going through these arcs or story arcs at this point in terms of rebuild and going through it, I think the vision and executing that vision is what will A, make or break your team, and B, ensuring that you have properly identified the people that need to be replaced, as well as the right players to bring in to replace those guys that you've identified that need to go. And so I think it's going to be a super interesting season this year. And I also think that our division has traditionally struggled with mobile quarterbacks, which literally is gifting the Commanders like, a ±2 kind of thing.
I'm trying to think of last season, but I was like, that was always like an Achilles heel, stopping the mobile quarterback.
You're talking like the Lamar Jacksons and the guys that are elusive and that kind of thing. And so that is something to keep in mind as well. But anyways, guys, the Commanders are going to be a very difficult team again this year, in my opinion, in the NFL. I do think that they have the right group in place, and it's going to be really interesting and fascinating for us to see their growth. That's why Corey is here, because I really thought that they are a team. I really thought that they're a team that is truly ascending as a team, and not just kind of like fake on paper. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you've actually proven that you've been able to take a thing and improve the thing. And I think that's
them taking out Detroit. I was just like, I was blown away by that. I was like, really?
Yeah. Oh, wow. that was to be honest with you, that was the first time we actually beat Detroit in Detroit since before when they went 0-16. That was the first time that we had beat them in Detroit since then. And we'd only beaten them once.
Man.
No, they're not. But Detroit's problem was that they had a lot of injuries.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to sell short.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. But injuries are part of the game. It's going to happen. Right. Like our best offensive lineman was hurt in that game and didn't play in the NFC Championship game. So I'm like, injury. Like I always say, well, people are like, well, injuries happen. Yeah, they do happen. They're part of the game. But that was a big thing that happened to them.
Win.
But we punched Jared Goff in the mouth and exposed him. Let's be honest. Jared Goff got exposed for what he was, and he's an okay quarterback. Now, if you ask me who am I going to take, Jared Goff or Justin Herbert, I'm probably going to take Justin Herbert without a question in that respect.
Well, thanks, Corey. Appreciate that.
I know I'm not a complete hater on him. So
I wouldn't touch Goff with a 10-foot pole, man.
Yeah, Sean McVay said, "See you later. Don't talk about my woman."
Yeah. So guys, that's gonna end it for the show today. I think it's
one last thing, Corey. It was great to have you in as a host, and I hope you come in. I hope Richie brings you back before you play each one of our teams to have the same type of conversation. We'll be after the draft. We'll have games under our belt. We'll have more stuff to talk about. So I hope you come back.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it. No, Rich knows he can find me, and that I stay loyal to my folks. So anytime he needs me, I will, and hopefully I can get you guys on my channel when we get ready to play you guys, and we'll talk about it and stuff. So I appreciate it. It's fun, and it's in a humbling spot. A lot of my fan base isn't in this. I don't think feels the way I do, but I don't take any of this for granted anymore. I did it with RG3. I am not taking it for granted what we have. And we gotta love it. We gotta hold on to it, because you never know when this crap can go back to the sinkhole. So
yeah. So I really think this is a fascinating show. I love having other teams come in and then doing like a juxtapose on our rosters and teams. Obviously, we're maybe a hair early before we can really start getting into predictions. I think those can be had on X perhaps after the draft and kind of hash some of that out in terms of kind of where the draft picks, or we think they're going to either fill or not fill perhaps roles that we thought that ought be filled is going to be a really interesting one. But anyways, guys, until next week, where we will be doing a mock draft for our different teams for the AFC West one day ahead of the draft there, which is going to be super, super interesting to kind of get into. But ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week, draft week, day before the draft, where the West Side is the West Side. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east.